Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you from Annapolis. We concluded week 10 on Friday. Today is St. Patrick's Day, Monday. So happy St. Patrick's Day to you and all of your family. But today is what's known as crossover day. It's the last day that a bill can cross over from the Senate to the House or from the House to the Senate and be able to go sort of through the regular process over in the other house and not have to go through an extra procedural step in the Rules Committee. So for most bills, if you don't get your bill out of the House or the Senate by the end of crossover day, and we'll be going to until this evening, then you're probably not going to get it passed. However, there's some big issues that are going to wait this year until after crossover, and I'll go into that in this video a little bit. There's always a little bit of a good news, bad news every legislative session when we get to crossover. There's a lot of huge issues on the table and a lot of potential bad news, and we've discussed a lot of it in the past. But I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of good things and then some bad things that have passed that are not as big of attention getters, but are really important. We've actually had some good bills pass the Senate right here before crossover, and I wanted to spotlight in some different areas. In the area of crime, the General Assembly, the Senate this year, has passed some good anti-crime, pro-public safety bills. There's some not good ones maybe coming as well, but there's been some good ones. One of them was we've worked on cracking down on retail theft, organized retail theft. We have gotten our laws more clear about things like revenge porn and extortion and things that in this new era of the internet have been used to really harm people. We got some legislation through to really make the laws much more clear about that, give law enforcement more tools in that area. And also, you may remember last year I raised the issue of squatting, the problem of people squatting in a house, not leaving. And even though Maryland's law is not as bad as some of the states that were in the national news, we had some holes in our law, and it was really hard once somebody was squatting to get them out quickly. And what we've done is actually I had legislation, and basically my bill was combined with a couple of other bills on the issue, and we are passing a very good bill out of the Senate that I'm now a co-sponsor of to give the tools for landlords that once it's been shown that someone is in violation, the Sheriff's Department can come and get them out without having to go through a lengthy court proceeding first. There is a safeguard on the back end of that in case someone wrongly takes somebody out, they can be sued for damages. But it's a really good anti-squatting bill, and it passed the Senate with a lot of support, which is great. On election security, we passed two really good bills on election security, and I can't even believe I'm saying this in transparency. One of them requires every local county to undergo what's called risk-limiting audits, to be checking ballots, a certain number of ballots in every batch, to make sure that they're catching any mistakes or incidental issues. Some counties are already doing this. I know Carroll does some risk limiting audit already, but a lot of counties did not have a procedure for this. So this bill requires that go forward in every county. And then there's also a bill that required that every county board of elections have streaming for their meetings so that everybody can always watch your local board of elections and any procedural meetings or meetings that they do. And so, and again, some counties were doing that well, but others were not. So really good two election security bills. And then we also, on the issue of MPRP, I'll get to this in a minute, on energy, we have not taken a lot of action on anything with energy yet because there's a lot of complex negotiations going on between the two houses. But we did get a very good task force bill that I co-sponsored with Senator Lewis Young in Frederick County to totally from top to bottom examine the complete impact of future data centers and data centers on the state of Maryland, our energy grid, on costs, environment, and the impact as it relates to things like having to bring more power lines and power sources into the state. So that bill moved out of the Senate over to the House. It was a bipartisan bill that was a good one. So there were some other bills that passed as well on the tax area, some specific tax credits that I think are good. So that was positive. On the bad side, we have the House has passed a bill that I think has some legs called the Second Look Act, which would allow criminals who were convicted between the ages of 18 and 24 of basically any crime other than sex crimes to, after they've served over 20 years of their sentence, to have an automatic opportunity to come and have a judge revisit their sentence and do that several times over the course of a period of years. So it kind of re-victimizes families. And there aren't exceptions, despite the House Republicans offered several great amendments to say, if this is violent murderers, or if this is someone who's committed some very, very serious, a list of very serious crimes, they're trying to amend those out of the bill. But that bill came out of the House. It's going to come over to the Senate that gives almost an unfettered opportunity for someone who was sentenced as an adult, to keep getting second looks, even if they're not eligible for parole. And I think that's a very dangerous bill. We'll be fighting to try to defeat that in the Senate. We also had a bill we passed out of the Senate that when prisoners can be paroled for medical reasons. If they're very sick, they sometimes will parole them to die at home or to live at home for a few months and then pass away. But the governor does not have a role in granting those paroles, except for we left him in place for someone who's serving a life sentence. If you're serving a life sentence, I believe the governor should have a say over whether you get medical parole or not. Life in prison without the possibility of parole does not get this, but this would be for life in prison, and I voted against that and fought against that because I don't think that's a good policy. So that was a bad bill that got through. There were some other bad bills as well we could go into more later, but I wanted to give you a sense of a lot of bills fly out in the final week before crossover, and so you're dealing with a lot of incoming, so trying to give you a little bit of a breakdown of sort of how it works here in the closing days before our crossover period. As far as unfinished business, we have several big issues hanging out there. The budget, which can oftentimes go past crossover in even a more normal year, huge budget deficit, which we've discussed. The House is going to pass their version of the budget over to us sometime this coming week, and the two houses have been working on debating and different alternatives for the budget, really all session. The issue of what kind of taxes that the General Assembly will pass is a huge open question. I've talked to you, of course, in other social media posts and email about some of the really wacky and terrible bill proposals. The governor, of course, put forward a bunch of tax increases earlier this session. Some of those may happen. Some of those have gone by the wayside probably, but now we have this business-to-business services tax that's been proposed. There's been the sort of wacky soda tax and driving tax. And I don't know that some of the more outlandish ones are going to move, but the issue of either raising the sales tax or doing a business-to-business services tax is very much in play. And also, frankly, what we're going to cut, because in the Senate, the Democrats have committed to real cuts, but they also do want to do some tax increases. We oppose any tax increases. We can get our way. It's not the easiest thing in the world because of the mismanagement, but we could cut our way out of this deficit. That's what we really need to do, is make real long-term cuts in spending. But that's going to be decided post-crossover day. Same thing with energy. Energy policy, we need to reinvigorate our natural gas and reliable energy resources. We need a long-term plan that gets started now for nuclear. And I believe we need to give immediate relief to people by getting rid of this terrible Empower fee, or at least pause that program. If not, I would love to get rid of it, but at least pause it and stop charging people $40, $50, $60 on their bill at times for this program. That's all being discussed and debated. There's a lot of contention between even Democrats. Some Democrats want to actually do more to invigorate natural gas and other types of reliable fuels and energy sources. Then there's a whole interest groups full of folks who still don't even recognize the reality that we need more nuclear, much less that we need more natural gas in the state. So all of that, and the NPRP bills that we've put forward on trying to deal with power lines, a lot of that has been wrapped up in that debate. So I'm hoping to get a vote on a bill today on an NPRP related issue in one committee, but there's a lot of moving parts left on energy. So this was a long video. They're going to be longer this time of year because there's a lot going on. But that's where we are. We are going to be going till probably pretty late this evening on final bills before crossover. And I look forward to the rest of the week is going to be much slower. There's a weird gap after the crossover day where it's a lot slower for a few days and quieter, and then it ramps back up for the final couple weeks before the end of the session. So I'm going to keep you updated. Really appreciate the opportunity to serve you. And again, hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day. God bless.